There had been whispers among the neighbors before, but this time it was a police officer who heard them. On August 2nd, 1992, a young girl told him that she was worried that one of her friends had been mucked about with by her father, who had videoed the incident. 4 days later, armed with a warrant to search for pornographic material, the police called at 25 Cromwell Street, on the outskirts of Gloucester, England. There, Fred and Rosemary West were arrested on a charge of raping a minor and their 5 youngest children taken into care. It was only later that the children began to talk of how their parents had threatened that they would end up buried under the patio like Heather. What the police found at Cromwell Street they described as so disgusting and so vile and so difficult to handle. There was a huge collection of rubberware, 99, videotapes, both commercial and homemade whips, and bondage equipment, and a horde of photographs, including some of Rosemary in a variety of sexual poses and 2 of the West's daughters naked. While possession of such material in a private home was not in itself criminal, it was supporting evidence for the charges against the Wests. There was already a case on file dating from December 1972, when Fred and Rosemary had been charged with a vicious sexual assault on a 16-year-old girl. But she had chosen not to appear in court, and the Wests had been fined a mere £25. Frederick Walter Stephen West was born on September on each of 4 minor counts. 29, 1941, the eldest son of a farm worker. In much, however, this time in 1992, they, Markle, on the county border between Herefordshire, were put on bail. Rosemary was, and Gloucestershire. In November 1962, he married allowed to return home to a house, 18-year-old Catherine Costello, and they had 2 where only 2 of her children, daughters, one of them not his. They lived, for some remained, but Fred was sent to a time in Catherine's native Glasgow, where she worked hostel for 10 months. On June 7th, as a prostitute while Fred took a job as an ice cream 1993, they stood trial. Fred on vendor, but he fell out with the local mobsters, and the 3 counts of rape and 1 of couple returned to Gloucestershire. Buggery against his daughter, and in January 1969, Fred told friends that Catherine had left Rosemary on 2 counts, one of encouraging the commission of him, and he shortly took up with Rosemary Letts, aged unlawful sexual intercourse, and 15. In March 1970, he obtained custody of Catherine's, one of cruelty to a child, yet at 2 children. Rosemary gave birth to Heather on the last moment, the 2 children, October 1st, 1970, and the couple married on January, who were to have given evidence, 29, 1972, finally moving into 25 Cromwell Street in July. Refused to appear, and the judge, they subsequently had 7 more children, was reluctantly compelled to. Meanwhile, Fred had a variety of jobs, mostly as a dismiss the charges, but soon after, builder. He made 11 court appearances, mainly for the police, heard of the family joke, receiving stolen goods, petty theft, and motoring concerning Heather. Heather Ann was the West's eldest daughter, aged 16 when she had disappeared 7 years earlier. Her old parents had maintained that she had left home without warning. The police returned to 25 Cromwell Street and started digging. As they were removing the slabs of the patio behind the house, they uncovered a bone. Called to to the scene, Home Office pathologist Professor Bernard Knight declared it to be human and female. Fred was arrested and admitted that he had killed Heather and that there were other bodies in the backyard. One was that of Shirley Robinson, who was 6 months pregnant when she died, and the fetal skeleton was found beside her dismembered bones. The other was Allison Chambers, who had disappeared in August 1979. The police soon realized that throughout Fred's interrogation, this jaunty, grinning man was telling them what he chose and what he was sure they would in any case discover. They decided to seek the advice of forensic psychologist Paul Britton. The police told Britton what they knew of the setup in the West home. There was a bedroom on the top floor of the house that was fitted up like a brothel. Fred would bring men to Rosemary there and take photographs, and she also advertised in sex contact magazines as Mandy Mouse. Britton told the police, "You are looking at evidence of predatory and sadistic sexual psychopathy. We have a combined depravity, a husband and wife, whose energy bounces off each other. They didn't just kill for the sake of taking a life. Their victims were playthings who were tortured and abused." He went on to tell them that the 3 bodies under the patio would not be the only ones found. He had used the garden because the house was full. As Britton advised, the police commenced an inch-by-inch search of 25 Cromwell Street. The skeletal remains of 5 young women were found in small square pits in the floor of the cellar, which Fred had later converted into a bedroom for his younger children. At the same time, the police received a report from a member of the public that the disappearance in 1973 of Linda Goff, 19, might be connected. Her body was found in a similar pit beneath a bathroom that Fred had built in place of the garage. Circumstantial evidence provided by Linda's mother linked Rosemary with the death. She and Fred, who had now confessed to 9 killings, were both charged with this murder. Britton had also suggested that the police search should extend to every place where Fred had lived or worked, and they launched an appeal for anyone who had known him over the past 25 years. They were particularly concerned to contact Catherine Costello, who had married Fred in 1962, and her elder daughter, Charmaine. The younger daughter, Anne-Marie, was already in touch. Fred at last confessed that he had killed both of them, burying Catherine's body in a field near the village of Muchmarkel where he was born. As for the fate of Charmaine, he told a variety of conflicting stories, apparently in the hope of exonerating Rosemary. Her remains were later found buried in a concrete floor at a house the couple had previously occupied. It took a month of digging to recover Catherine's body from the field. Fred then announced that there was another body in an adjoining field. It turned out to be that of Anna McFall, a girl with whom he had fallen in love with in Glasgow and whom he later described as an angel. Eventually, the total of known victims reached 13. Dr. David Whitaker, a forensic odontologist at University of Wales Medical College, applied a battery of tests that established the sex, age, and medical history of each skeleton. Finally, he superimposed images of the victims upon photographs of their skulls. They all fitted. However, before he could be brought to trial, Fred West hanged himself in his prison cell on the night of January 1st, 1995. In October, Rosemary appeared in court, charged with 10 murders, all of which she denied. But on the afternoon of November 22nd, convinced by Dr. Whitaker's evidence, the jury reached a unanimous verdict on all counts, and Rosemary was sentenced to 10 terms of life imprisonment.